we'll keep the nonsense to a minimum, but not completely erase it, because what's the fun in that?
Absolutely.
Welcome to The Other 51. I'm your host, Brian Moritz, and joined this week by one of my favorite writers, a frequent guest on the show, and the author of the excellent new book, Why We Love Football, A History in 100 Moments, Joe Posnanski. Welcome back to the show.
It is great to be back, Brian.
I appreciate you being here. And before we get to the book and the writing, which all of it is fantastic, I do, since I have you here, I do have a request of you. And it's something you and Michael do on the podcast. And I'm one of those people who listen to, every minute of the show all the time.
I'm so sorry. I really am. I can only apologize.
It's fantastic. And so what you've been doing this thing lately where people will give you their names, their full names, and you will come up with the sport that they are a star in, or their sport background. So having you here, I have to ask, Brian Moritz, what is his sport?
Brian Moritz is the quarterback in Indiana. He is a senior. He's this year. He's a fifth-year senior. Truly, the coaching staff loves him. The coaching staff feels great. He hasn't put up huge numbers, but just super reliable. Probably, the big win over Iowa his sophomore year would be the highlight of his college career so far. But big hopes going into this year, hoping for some top 25 possibilities there at Indiana.
I like to think of myself as the cerebral player who kind of lets the game come to him, doesn't force it, very accurate.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's why the coaches, there is a freshman that everybody's really excited about, but the coaches are like, no, we're going to stick with Brian. I mean, he's he just doesn't make mistakes. He's out there. We're going to let our freshmen develop and learn under the wing of Brian Moritz.
I have so many friends who teach at Indiana, and they're going to have a field day when they hear this. I love it. So I want to talk about the book. I have it right here. Just finished it. Why We Love Football. It's fantastic. It is such a fun book. I loved every second of it. And one of the things I truly appreciate as a lifelong Bills fan is in the Patrick Mahomes chapter, you did not mention 13 seconds. And I'm just going to take the win wherever I can get it on there.
Yeah. Well, I would love to say that it is because of my love for Buffalo football, which it is, but it's also because you can't get everything that Patrick Mahomes has done into one chapter. So you were one of the lucky ones that kind of got left out of that.
Yeah, I'll take it, especially since the home run throwback is in this, and one of the stories from the Super Bowl loss. One of the good stories from the Super Bowl loss is the Don Beebe-Leon Lett story, which I remember. I was in high school when that run was happening, and just that moment was just such a like symbolic moment, I think, for us in Buffalo, right? Because they were getting crushed. Dallas was literally running away with it, and then the Don Beebe comes in, not giving up on the play, and I just remember that being such a moment growing up of kind of like emblematic of the team at the time.
Yeah, I think, but also emblematic of football. I mean, for when you're putting a list together like this, which is obviously impossible to come up with 100 greatest moments, and started with something like 300 of them, and more than I did with baseball, just because when you're doing pro football and college football and high school football and everything else. But I always knew that was not only going to be a moment, but it was going to be pretty high on the list, because it's kind of why we love football. I mean, here's a guy for no reason. There's literally no reason for Don Beebe to have chased Leon Lett down in that game. They're getting destroyed. There's everybody else is not only giving up on the play, but giving up on the game itself. Obviously, the Cowboys are going to win, and they're going to win big. And just him chasing him down and making the play at the end there is just sort of a perfect representation of what it is that you want, from a football player and from a football team and honestly just from a football game. I mean, I think that moment. It's funny that the Cowboys scored 1 billion points in that game, but I think the moment that everybody remembers not only from that game but kind of from Super Bowl throughout the 90s is the him chasing down Leon Lett.
And I didn't realize and you had a great, I think it's a footnote on here. There's there's it can get uncomfortable racial stereotyping really quick, like the hardworking white guy hustling down against
Sure.
the showboat black guy, and you don't read about that, but that's always kind of hidden there. But I love the. I didn't realize that Don Beebe defended Leon Lett's kind of celebration. Can you tell that story? That's really great.
Yeah, he really defended it because everybody would come up to him and go, oh, that guy was showboating and whatever, and he's like, wait a minute, this guy. I mean, how often is a defensive lineman going to get a chance to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl? I mean, it's crazy. Of course he was excited. Of course he was going to try to get every moment out of it. And I loved one of the things I loved is that Leon Lett was while he was running was thinking about the dance that he was going to do when he got in the end zone. And that Super Bowl, I had forgotten this or had never connected it. That was the Super Bowl Michael Jackson performed at
Right.
halftime.
Yeah.
So he was going to do some sort of Michael Jackson dance in the end zone. So while we all appreciate just chasing down Leon Lett and all that Don Beebe did, he kind of stole that from us. He kind of stole Leon Lett doing a Michael Jackson dance from us. But yeah, what a moment! What a great moment!
So you kind of mentioned this already, but you said it's 100 moments, and you said you started with over 300. So I'm curious, did you actually list out all your moments and then whittle it down, like kind of getting in the writing process? But did you kind of have a master list and then start editing and like, so how did you get to the 300 and then how do you scale back to 100?
Getting to the 300 was pretty easy. I mean, it was just you know, a few days of scribbling down every single moment I could think of, looking up some moments, and then those leading to other moments, kind of poking around with friends and just saying, oh, what do you remember? Like what has to be in there? And everybody would give me 25, and of those 25, maybe 5 or 10 of them I didn't have. And so it just kind of kept growing and growing and growing. So I wanted this massive list, especially trying to do college and pro, because that with the baseball book there is a college moment in there, but college baseball is just not, it's not the same thing as college football. So I really wanted to try to build this huge list. Breaking it down ended up being an incredibly arduous process, not only because trying to get from 300 down to 100, which is in and of itself an arduous process, but because the book wasn't working for me
Okay.
as I was writing it. It was very odd because I kind of came in. I'm not going to say overconfident, but I came in confident. Like, okay, I just wrote Why We Love Baseball. I kind of know what I'm doing here. I kind of have a sense of what this is, and I started writing the book, and it wasn't working. It
Hmm.
just wasn't working, and I couldn't quite place in my mind why it wasn't. And I kept thinking, well, there's a difference between football and baseball. That's what the problem is, or I've got too many of these kinds of moments, or there was just something that wasn't quite right there as I was writing it. And so for me, part of what it took to sort of get this thing down to 100 moments, because at one point it was 50 moments, just like baseball. At one point it was 60 moments. There were, various things where I was going to do college and pro. I was going to separate them. Like I had all of these different ideas, and none of them were working. And what I eventually came to, and sort of at least for me as a writer, the moment where this book came alive for me was when I started to think about it as a football game. And I started to think about how we watch football, and how every play is its own like little universe in football, in a way that I don't think any other sport is like that. Every play in football is you're anticipating, they're in the huddle, you're waiting, and the play happens, and then maybe it's a great play, maybe it's a nothing play, maybe it's a turnover, but you don't know. But you let that sink in, and then it's on to the next play, and the game is always on to the next play, even when you're up big, you're thinking about, okay, well, how much time is left? What do you have to do? What's the next play? And so for me, that sort of like the book, I don't think the book is random. I spent a lot of time putting it in order the way I wanted it, but I wanted to sort of feel a little bit random. I wanted to sort of feel like you turn the page, you have no idea what's coming next, kind of like a football game. And maybe this next moment will be a college moment, maybe it'll be a high school moment, maybe it'll be something you remember, maybe it'll be something you don't know anything about. But I wanted that feeling going throughout the book. And so that's sort of what led to it, getting down to the 100. I wanted the right 100 for the kind of book that I was writing.
I can say it absolutely. You nailed the randomness of it in the good way. Like there really is no like it really is a oh this chapter's next. Oh this person's next. And
Yeah.
you've got the themes like the top 10 players at the zeros and the miracles at 7. I guess that's a spoiler, but this isn't really a book that matters too much on spoilers. So there
No,
you go.
no.
So I am wondering not to delve too deeply into the struggles you had writing this, but I think as writers we always struggle with stuff that we're writing, and
Sure.
I've got a piece next to me on my desk that is filled with notes and I just can't nail it. So what is that when you were working on it and it wasn't quite working right, like can you describe that feeling and kind of how you got to the solution, but what are you actively doing to work through that and to like are you talking to the people that it's not working? Is it not working just in your own mind? Like that whole, it's not working, and then how you work to get out of that.
Yeah, it is very much for me, it's a very solitary thing. I don't talk to anybody. And my for my wife, Margot, that's the time I'm trying to figure out what the book is the worst time. It's the worst because I'm in my head nonstop thinking about it. And I'm a tinkerer anyway, just sort of in life as well as a writer. So I can't like I'll never figure it out unless I try 25 things and figure out which one is the right one. So if for me, it was constantly changing the format of the book, constantly. And I probably had, you know, I mentioned a few earlier, but I probably had 15 or 20 different formats for this book at
Oh,
one
wow.
point or another. Yeah, just completely different. There was a time where I had a countdown of players sort of in the middle of the book. There was a time that I had like like I said, I separated college and pro, and there was time that I kind of wanted to make it so that I was grouping different kinds of things, like you mentioned. And I don't think it's a spoiler. I think it's really a fun thing. One of the there are, I talk about this in the book, that there are more football miracles like charted than there are Jesus miracles. Like there's a number of Jesus miracles in the Bible, and it's less than the number of football miracles. And I'm talking about miracle, at Motown, the Music City miracle, they're all called miracle in addition to being actual miracles. Um, so I was going to have a miracles chapter, and I was going to have this, and I was going to have this. So I was just constantly moving stuff around and changing, and it's a very for me, it's a very frustrating time because I want to get going. Like my favorite part of writing is when I know what the book is, when I know exactly what I'm trying to do, and then it's just go research, talk to people, but write. I love that part and I love that time. And I sort of have confidence that I'll get there. I mean, like so far so good. Like I've always gotten there at some point. Um, but there, that time, and for me, this one was a couple of months, I would say, of really. And the other thing is, even now, I can't explain to you why it wasn't working the other ways.
Okay.
It's not something that I just have a feeling. I'm just, as I'm writing it, I'm like, this isn't working. It's just not getting there. And, um, so figuring that out is such a incredible feeling, I mean, just solving that puzzle. And then once you solve the puzzle, at least for me, then it's, wow, this is great. I've got my 100 moments. I know where they're going. I know what I want to do. I've got them in the order I want, and let's go. And that's the best.
Yeah, it is really one of those. The only way out is through situations, right?
Yeah.
You just kind of got to muddle through, and it is like again, not to take something from the book, but like a Devin Hester kickoff return, right? Like all of a
Right.
sudden, like the lane opens up and it's like, okay, we're there. It's done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy because I know other people don't do that. Other people are much more organized than I am. Like they'll I was at a book festival with a mystery writer, and he was telling me that he spends 8 months every book, and his books are not very long. They're very popular mysteries, and he spends 8 months highlighting the book, putting it in order, coming up with a formula for every single thing. So then once he writes the book, it's almost like he's just following like a step by step, like IKEA, instruction book or something. And I'm not like that at all. I kind of a lot of it has to be feel, but in some ways I am constantly outlining just in my own way until I get to where I want, until I get to that point where I'm like, okay, yeah, now I see it. Now I can, I see the beginning, I see the middle, I see the end, I see how I'm getting from the beginning to the end, I see all of the connections, and then it's all systems go.
Speaking of different iterations of the book, I remember, I think when we were talking last year for the Why We Love Baseball book, you had mentioned that an original title of this, I think I remember this correctly, is Why We Love and Hate Football. And
Yeah,
that was, I remember, because I remember sitting down to try to write something based off of our conversation that on Damar Hamlin, because that was obviously a lifelong Bills fan, watched that game. And if I'm being honest, if the Bills weren't good, that might have been it for football for me. But
right,
given the connection and given the fact that they're good, I've been able to stick with it. So, obviously, why we putting hate in a title is probably not the best marketing tool,
right,
which is probably a big
right.
part of it. But how did you kind of deal with that? Because I know you and Michael talk a lot about this, and you talk about it in the book, the
Yeah,
not great aspects of of any football, but
absolutely. Yeah, it's funny because I did, when we first started talking, I pretty just sort of rapidly early on mentioned to my editor, like, oh, I'm thinking, what do you think of Why We Love and Hate Football? And you could just see the look on his face, like, oh, dude, we're not putting hate in this title.
right.
Um, but it was more than that because, like, obviously, I would have fought for it if I felt like that was what this book was. I don't think this book is why we hate football. I mean, I think certainly there I talk about the violence. I talk about some of the, difficulties of being a football fan. I mean, it's in there, but that's not really what this book is. I mean, there are books out there that are why we hate football and why football should be banned and all, why kids aren't playing it as much and all of that. And I've read a lot of those books. I have a lot of those same feelings, but that's not what this is. This
Mhm.
book is truly why we love the game. Why this game is such. I mean, I've mentioned this now on a few interviews, and I'm sure I'll talk about it all the time. 93 of the top 100 television shows rated in 2023 were football games.
Mhm.
I mean, it is the biggest thing in America, sports, non-sports, entertainment, business, anything. There's nothing in America that is as big as football. And I think why we love it is a fascinating topic because nobody else does. Nobody else around the world loves American football. I mean, they're trying to export it to we saw there the other game in Brazil and obviously in London and other places and maybe they're picking it up a little bit, but we are the only ones who love this game. So what does it say about the American character that this sport is so big and popular and we love it so much? And to me I thought that was sort of the big theme of this book and so why we love football is the right title for it.
So how do you work as a writer, with the baseball book? And I may have asked you this when we talked about the baseball book, but this is very much a collection of essays, and you say in there like you can pop in and through and bounce around and whatever. How do you still kind of maintain like kind of a single theme or a thesis statement? So there's like a connective tissue between all of this. So it's not just, 100 essays about cool football stuff, but with a bigger point, a bigger thing you're saying.
Yeah, I mean I think that the theme is and it's it's not easy. I mean, honestly, I mean, there are a lot of books out there that are sort of, list type books, and they're lists. I mean, they're literally it. One is nothing to do with the other, nothing, the 100 greatest actors, and they're just doing this or the, whatever. And what I think has really worked going back to the Baseball 100 for me is that these books do have this, hopefully, this is my goal, my dream. These books do have this larger purpose and this larger thing. And I think for me, it is that I am not, even though I call it the 100 greatest moments in football history at times, I mean, just when I'm talking about it, that's not what it is. It's 100 moments that explain why we love football. And that's a different thing because like there are plenty of moments that are like when you look at just how exciting it was or thrilling it was or dramatic it was or whatever that probably should be in this book that are not. And because to me, it overlapped on something else that told that story better, or it is something that doesn't necessarily, I mean, the entire Damar Hamlin situation specifically, certainly not why we love football, but it is incredibly important in the history of football, and him coming back is such a, I mean, it's somewhat the sport's salvation, right? It's like, if he hadn't come back, what is this sport, right? But it's not why we love football. And so I trying to get at each of these individual things, they're each self-contained. You can pick it up and turn to page whatever and find, number 44 and read about it. And that's hopefully really fun for everybody to just read it any way you want to read it. I hope that's sort of a fun part of the books that I write. But at the same time, if you read it from front to back, I really do believe that you'll get something also. There is something larger that I'm trying to get at, and that is I hope that just about every single way we can love the game is represented somewhere in this book, and that includes heartbreak, which I think is still a very big part of why we love this game. It includes obviously exciting plays. It involves silliness. It involves the butt fumble. It involves everything. Like all of these things. Paint this picture of what it is that we love about this game.
Well, and putting yourself so much in the book and in your writing, it is really kind of neat too. I'm imagining the Denver interviews and the Denver Broncos fans who are going to write to you about the drive, and I firmly understand that. But kind of writing at it, I think that's one of the things that the book does well. I think is that the drive is probably one of the moments that we love football. But there's no way you can write about the drive in any way that's like me writing about 13 seconds. Like we just got to acknowledge what we are and doing it that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, I said to you that there was something that really unlocked it for me, and what really unlocked it for me was that chapter about
really?
the drive.
Okay.
Yeah, it was because I knew the drive had to be in the book, and I thought about that a million different ways, how I was going to write it, and there was no way I could write it without it being, as a Cleveland Browns fan, writing about how much I loathed John Elway and how much that wrecked me and all of that. And I do write a whole chapter about Red Right 88, the Brian Sipe interception that wrecked my childhood. But the drive is something else. It's like its own thing because that is the closest the Browns have ever been to a Super Bowl. They were the ball's on the 2-yard line with 5 minutes left in Cleveland. They had shut him down all day long. They were going to the Super Bowl. That was it. It was going to happen. And then half an hour later they're out of the playoffs. And so I knew that was going to be something. And I was like, how do I write this? How do I write this? And it was at the same time that I was thinking about what is this book? What does it mean? And then it just really one day, and this is how it usually works when you try everything. One day it clicked. Oh, I know exactly how I'm going to write the drive. I'm not going to write about the drive. And that's exactly how I'm going to write about it. And that so unlocked it for me. It's like, hey, there are no rules here. This is the way you want to write this book, and that really helped a lot.
So one thing that I appreciated in the book too, for one thing, my favorite little chapter randomly was the Anthony Munoz chapter, just because I know
Yeah.
how great he is, but I didn't think something about the 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 tryout that he had with Forrest Gregg and Forrest Gregg
Yes.
trying to block him and he just overrun something about that was just so beautiful. I love that so much. But I think what was interesting was writing about so many plays that we know or moments that we know, and how do you balance that out? And I know this is probably trial and error, but I'd love to know a little more about balancing like the immaculate reception, or even a modern play like the kick six or the Stephon Diggs catch in Minnesota, where like some people know this play, a lot of people know some of it, maybe some people don't know about it, like a younger reader may not know some of this. But so how do you balance out like getting what you need to know in there, but also not just retelling the immaculate reception story for the 10,000th time?
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely one thing that I did pull from baseball, right? Because I knew in baseball there were plays that had been written about, more times than any football play. I mean, the called shot by Babe Ruth's been written about by many, many more times than even the Immaculate Reception. No play is even close to some of the top plays. The shot heard around the world, or the ball going through Buckner's legs, or whatever. Those have been cherished in a way, because baseball is such a literary sport. Those have been cherished in a way that nothing in football has been. So I knew coming in that plays that people know about, I wanted to, of course, give them something they didn't know, and give them, and that meant finding stuff that I didn't know about those plays. And I really, really enjoyed, because I did write it, more or less sequentially. I mean, from 100 to 1. So it was pretty late in the game that I wrote about the Immaculate Reception. But it wasn't, but I always was thinking how I was going to write it. Like, because that to me, even though, not to give away the big hit, it's not number one in the book. So it'll be fun to have people talk about that. But I knew it was the sort of moment that everybody, that's the one that we'll see every year. And I'm like, how am I going to tell this story? How am I going to tell that story in a way that's unlike anything else? And I came up with a way that I love, because it sort of fits the rest of the book, and it's sort of a perfect summation in a lot of ways of the book and the way I wanted to write it. Um, but I definitely, it's a great point and a great question in this way. I definitely knew even the most famous plays in football are not nearly as well known as the most famous plays in baseball. Even like the 58 championship game, and kick six, and the play, and all of these other super duper duper well known moments are not that well known compared to baseball, for sure. I mean, they're well known, and you've got to give them something new, but you're also writing to people who don't know anything about the Immaculate Reception, right? Immaculate Reception happened 50 years ago, and that's not something that people think about that much. If you're young enough, that's not something you might have any real. You might have heard of it. You might have seen a quick highlight of Franco Harris catching the ball or whatever, but you don't know anything about it. Um, but then there are so many moments in this book that I was able to start from scratch, because I'm like, almost nobody's going to know about this, or who's going to know about this? Their fans are going to know about this.
Mm-hmm.
The fan, like even Kick Six, maybe the most famous college. I mean, the play probably, but maybe Kick Six, maybe the most famous college football play ever. Alabama fans and Auburn fans know that play intimately, in obviously very different ways, but they know that play intimately. But I don't know that the rest of us do in that sort of same way. I mean, like, we remember it. We remember the call, maybe. We remember seeing it. But I don't know that we know it was a freshman that he sent out to kick it. I don't know that we remember that he switched the guy who was in the end zone to return that at the last very possible second. Like, there are things about that play that I don't think are necessarily common knowledge. So for the plays that I didn't think people knew very much at all, it was great. I felt like I had a blank slate. But even for those most famous plays, I still felt like there was a lot of room.
Well, and getting back to kind of something you said earlier, there's football is such a complex sport. You got 22 guys just on the field at any one
Yeah,
point, not to mention coaches, everyone on the sideline, players. So it's not less than baseball, where it's a smaller, like, you got a pitcher, you got a hitter, and
absolutely.
but there's more different perspectives or more different like angles
Well,
into a play.
and I would take it even one step further. I mean, when Kirk Gibson hits the home run to win Game 1 of the '88 World Series, um, there are basically two characters in that play. I mean, three if you want to say Lasorda sending him out in the first place. Obviously, you've got the announcers, so you've got Vin and you've got Jack Buck, but it's Dennis Eckersley and Kirk Gibson. That's it. That's basically their only characters. Every single amazing play in football that we see a quarterback drop back to throw, roll around a million, ways, get away from get away from pressure, roll out, throw the ball downfield. The receiver makes an incredible catch for a touchdown. The whole play might have been the left guard. Literally, the left guard might have been the entire key to that play. Mm-hmm. And the only person who will know that is the team, and particularly that left guard. Like, those are the guys that'll know why that play really worked. And that's very specific to football, I think, somewhat hockey as well, but there are fewer players on the ice to deal with, where all 11 players. I mean, a receiver blocking downfield could be the key to the play. Receiver not running his route correctly could be the key to the play to the play. So you just don't know what is going, is the key. So you have a lot of angles to write about it, but you also have the sort of this mystery that I think follows, and I think we did talk about this with baseball. That's sort of where I feel like I live. I feel like my place as a writer is sort of that place between what happened and sort of the mythology of what's happening.
So I'll get you out of here on this, and I ask all my guests this. So I've asked you this a number of times. What's the best thing you've read lately?
Oh, good question. Best thing I've read lately. Ooh, why is this going to be so hard for me? I've been reading a few sort of nonfiction history kinds of things. Probably, I can't remember if I'd read this already by the time I can't remember if I'd read this, and I can't remember. Of course, I'm not going to even remember the name of the book. But Candace wrote this book about. Is it Garfield? The Garfield, the one that got shot? Yeah. And I wish I could remember the name of the book. But they're making it into a movie now. Actually, with my friend Nick Offerman is playing him in the movie.
Flawless. Oh my gosh, that's flawless.
What's that?
That's flawless casting.
Oh my gosh, and he's got the mutton chops and it's so great. So there you go. So what I can tell your listeners is, look up a book by Candace about Garfield, and then you'll be able to figure out what the heck I'm talking about. And it's bad. I wish I was so much better at names. I'm just terrible at names.
Right. So I was able to Google that there. It is Destiny of the Republic.
Destiny of the Republic.
By Candace Millard, yes.
Candace Millard, who I know fairly well. She's amazing. She wrote the Roosevelt book, the River of something, and which was also great. But I like this one even better. But I will say, and I should say this to her, I don't think Destiny of the Republic's a good name, because it's not. It doesn't stay in the mind. So I'll tell her she should have called it,
the
Garfield and something.
The after the colon of that book is A Tale of Madness, Medicine, and Murder, and the Murder of a President. That's better. That's really good. That's really, really good. So if she's going to do it that way, then use a one-word title, and so we can get to the subhead quicker, because that subtitle's excellent. That is. So, all right, I'll have links to that and links to buy the new book and to your Substack and everything else that you do in the show notes to this. And Joe, this is always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Oh gosh, thank you.
thanks for listening to The Other 51. Special thanks to Joe Posnanski for taking time out of a crazy schedule to be on this week, and to Jamie Knapp and the incredible team at Dutton for helping make it all happen behind the scenes. You can find links to Joe's book and everything else we talked about in our show notes. Jen Moritz does our graphics. Ellie Moritz did our music. I'm Brian, and I'll talk to you next time.